I'm obsessed with finding myself now and not having to prove anything to anybody other than myself and my family, or really myself, and realizing that that is enough. Giving your best is enough. And sometimes we lose track of that. So for anybody out there, you're enough.
If you are a deep thinker, you're not arrogant. There's no need to feel ashamed. There's no need to feel socially anxious. Your brain's not broken. You're biologically upgraded. And we need to stop forcing square brains into round social norms.
There's a certain kind of man that doesn't live on the surface. He walks into a room and doesn't just see people. He reads the air. He can feel tension before it has a name. He notices what changed, what's missing, what wasn't said. To him, the world isn't a place to pass through. It's a code to be interpreted. And yet, that same awareness that makes him sharp also makes him tired. When you see everything, you can't unsee anything. Here's the thing no one tells you about being that man. The world wasn't built for you. Modern life rewards fast answers, loud confidence, and people who don't think twice. But you think 7 times. And that's not a flaw. That's a weapon most people can't afford. So today, we're breaking down 7 truths about men who think deep, not the cliches that flood the internet, the quiet realities that only depth can teach. Stay with me.
Being a deep thinker is a blessing and a curse. When you think too deep into everything, it only makes it harder for you to truly enjoy yourself because your mind is always trying to peel back another layer. But the upside is that your ability to analyze things as deeply as you do can be used to make you highly successful in whatever it is that you choose to do.
For most people, instinct is simple. Something feels right, they act. Something feels wrong, they avoid it. But the deep thinking man learned early that unfiltered instincts can destroy what patience could have saved. He's been burned by impulse, betrayed by emotion that arrived dressed as truth. So he doesn't just trust his gut, he interrogates it. Researchers at the University of Toronto call this metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. And studies show that men who score high in this make significant better decisions under pressure, not because they're smarter, because they've learned to question the voice in their head before obeying it. One man in my comments said it perfectly. I used to think I was indecisive. Turns out I was just the only one in the room who actually considered the consequences. That's not weakness. That's foresight dressed in hesitation. And here's what no one tells you. That internal tribunal you run, logic versus feeling, memory versus motive, that's not overthinking. That's the price of wisdom. You've already fought the war inside before letting anything escape. And when you finally speak, your words land like verdicts.
You can see things from angles that most people can. So as much of a burden as it is, deep thinking is really a superpower. But just like any other superpower, it can be used to elevate you or to cripple you.
Modern culture worships the man who moves fast. Say yes to every opportunity. Chase every door. Never slow down. But deep thinking men have learned something different. The most powerful word in your vocabulary isn't yes, it's no. Ambition says you can do anything. Wisdom whispers you shouldn't do everything. A 2021 research from Harvard Business Review found that executives who practice strategic restraint, meaning deliberately saying no to good opportunities, outperformed their peers by 20% over 5 years. Not because they did more, but because they did less of the wrong things. Deep men measure life by how many rooms they had the discipline to walk past, not by how many they've entered. I had a guy message me once. He said, I turned down a promotion that would have doubled my salary because I knew it would cost me my marriage. 2 years later, his friend who took that same role was divorced and burnt out. That's not being passive. That's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. In a world addicted to more, That kind of discipline look almost rebellious, but you already know this. You've watched impulsive men implode, and you've quietly outlasted them. Most people talk to be heard. Deep men stay quiet to be understood. But here's what gets missed. Their silence isn't withdrawal, it's construction. They know silence has texture. It can protect, provoke, or punish depending on how you use it. Research from the Journal of Personalities in Social Psychology found that men who pause before replying are rated as more competent, more trustworthy, and more authoritative. The study called it conversational restraint. I call it knowing when to hold your power. When a deep man speaks after thinking, people lean in because they know he doesn't just speak to fill spaces. He speaks to create clarity. But here's the part that hurts. That same silence often gets misread. People assume you're cold, distant, or you don't care, when really you're just not willing to throw words around like confetti. You've learned that every word you release into the world leaves an echo, and you'd rather be silent and respected than loud and forgotten. That's not shyness, that's strategy.
Overthinking will always leave you, as you say, confused, fearful, angry, frustrated, sad, lonely, miserable. Deep thinking is always empathetic at its core. It's always positive.
Deep thinkers live in seasons. There's the expansion phase. When they devour information, ideas, experiences, they read everything, talk to everyone, chase every thread of curiosity. Then there's a reduction phase, when they strip life down to essentials, fewer people, fewer projects, fewer words. Most people mistake this for instability. They think something is wrong when you disappear, but it's not a mood swing. It's calibration. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, called this process individuation, the psyche's natural rhythm of integrating opposites. Every expansion without reduction leads to chaos. Every reduction without expansion leads to stagnation. And here's why this matters for you specifically. Modern productivity culture wants you grinding 24/7, always available, always on. But that model was built for machines, not minds. And deep men burn out faster in that system because they process more. So when you feel the need to retreat, don't fight it. That's not depression. That's your operating system running updates. You disappear to recalibrate. And when you return, you're sharper, you're quieter, and 10 steps ahead of where everyone left you. Trust the rhythm. It's not broken. Neither are you. A surface level man judges who you are today. A deep man studies when you are. He knows people shift like weather, that the same person who's warm in one season can turn distant in another, that friends change when their circumstances change, that loyalty isn't always about character. Sometimes it's about capacity. So he doesn't take betrayal personally. He takes note of timing. Behavior psychologists call this contextual intelligence, the ability to read circumstances, not just behavior. It's what separates men who hold grudges from the men who hold perspective.
Contextual intelligence. Ever heard of it? It's like a superpower for understanding real-life situations. But guess what? It doesn't develop overnight. Contextual intelligence is about understanding what to do, but also when to do it. It's about reading the room, adapting to a new environment, also knowing how to change your approach based on the situation.
One guy wrote to me, I stopped being angry at my friend who ghosted me when I realized he was going through a divorce. He didn't abandon me. He was drowning. That's the deep thinking man's gift. He understands that some people aren't toxic. They're just tired, lost, or growing at a different pace. That empathy keeps him human, but it also keeps him cautious. He doesn't burn bridges. He just stopped building them in directions where the season never changed. You've probably done this. Protected yourself, but not with walls, but with timing. That's not coldness. That's wisdom most people never develop. When you see patterns others ignore, comfort becomes impossible. Deep men have seen mediocrity rewarded and excellence punished. They've seen lives applauded and truth mocked. They've stayed loyal to people who forgot their name. Once you see that clearly, you can't go back to pretending. The philosopher Schopenhauer wrote, "The more unintelligent a man is, the less mysterious existence seems to him." In other words, ignorance really is bliss. And you lost access to that bliss the moment you started paying attention. That's the tax on depth. You see too much, and the world starts feeling smaller because you understand how it actually works. But here's the flip side. That same vision that shows you what's broken also shows you what's worth building. Deep men don't shrink to fit system that insults their intelligence. They'd rather rebuild from scratch than decorate a cage. That's why you chase purpose with almost religious urgency. Not to prove something, not for applause, but to survive your own awareness. The mind that sees too much must also do more, or it drowns in its own perception. If you've ever felt like you can't just coast through life like other people seem to, this is why. Your depth demands something from you, and that's not a burden. It's a calling. Most people build habits. Deep men build systems. A habit gets you through the week. A system gets you through a lifetime. They're not addicted to routine. They're addicted to structure because they've learned that thought without a form becomes chaos. So they create mental framework, codes, principles, rituals, not to restrict themselves, but to give their depth the right direction. Psychologists call this cognitive scaffolding. It's how high-performing minds avoid burnouts. The framework acts like rails for high-speed trains. It keeps intelligence from derailing into obsession. That's why deep men often look disciplined instead of brilliant. Their genius hides inside their system. They don't chase motivation because motivation is unreliable. They chase alignment, structure, a clear path from thought to action. And here's the quiet truth. You've probably already built frameworks and didn't realize it. The rules you live by, the standards you refuse to break, the non-negotiable you protect. That's not rigidity. That's architecture. And that's how deep thinking men turn thought into legacy. So if you're a man who thinks deep, hear me. You're not broken. You're not overthinking. You're not too much. You're just tuned differently. You process more, feel more, see more, and yes, it can get heavy. But the world doesn't need fewer deep men. It needs more of them who know how to carry their depth without drowning in it. Because somewhere between overthinking and awareness lies the quiet edge of mastery, where your depth stops being a curse and start becoming a weapon. So keep thinking, but start building. Your depth isn't meant to isolate you. It's meant to lead you. And if this resonated, drop a comment. Tell me which one hit differently. Subscribe if you're new. It's been your girl Remi Rene here. I'll see you guys in my next video.